You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amber TV. The voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
You brother. If you no thank God, you go end up for God. Brother, make you find work, or you remain the suffer. Only my hand, you, we make them together. If I do you bad, you, if I do you good, you, if I promise and fail, you, if I do you good, you, man, I am young, tell me, Jenny, come on. In a winter, when you come on. Man, I am young, you me, come on. In a jump, come on. Tell me, come on.
Okay, thank you, fellow Amazonians, ladies and gentlemen, for staying faithful and waiting. We are 1 hour behind schedule. I deeply appreciate your patience, and I apologize for the late start. It is a work in progress, and we are indeed making progress like never before. Connected to you at this time, it's 10 p.m. Amber time, and everybody in Boya, in Kumba, in Bamenda, in Tamafe, in Manu, you are seated watching to receive the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Dr. Mungwa. In the next 10 minutes, he will be addressing you from his office. He has a lineup of very interesting topics to talk about. Even as we speak right now, the battle is getting into a new phase. We're making progress. America has granted our people a TPS, which is also there is a diplomatic gain in that. While we're making that diplomatic progress, Cameroon is going into a deal with Russia. The technicalities involved in that deal is not understood yet, but the Secretary of State for Communications and IT will unveil to us what are the technicalities involved, what is there for Amazonia, what is there against Amazonia. These are questions now we have to answer. And why the interim government is focused on kicking out the Republic of Cameroon out of Amazonia, coup plotters in alliance with Cho Ayaba, Colonel Banqui, the Chris Arno, and the Kick are trying to assemble themselves. They want to create a front against the interim government. We have from intelligence that they are planning to come up with some form of unity. They will be shocked that we have this information already. They want to come up with some purported unity. You know, the catchword, the catchphrase is unity. In 1972, when Ayijo wanted to manipulate our people into a union that failed, he used the word unity. When Ayabacho had failed to win the trust of the people with his rooftop jargon, he came with the word unity, swayed some fighters, genuine fighters who were ignorant, who were not conscious of what was needed. And in less than 2 months, we've had close to 30,000 restoration forces wasted. Right now, they are planning to come with another catchphrase. There is a united front. Aye Mariantia from London is working under the inspiration of Chris Arno and some demented Confucianists to liaise with Norway and Kondengi IG to create some package. What they're going to come to deceive the Amazonian people, that the president, Dr. Samuel Ikomesako, is the one that is wanting divide. We have our ears on the ground. We will bring you more details in that with Undaunted. I'm sure the past weekend you had all the interesting programs with Undaunted. You enjoyed the programs we had with the president's speech analysis that was done yesterday, and all the interesting things that are happening. Tomorrow, whatever the SOS will be saying here tomorrow, he would have given to us a platform of discussion. Undaunted tomorrow will also have important guests. We hope to bring Barrister Timothy Mbeheza again on the platform. Tonight, the SOS of communications is going to be talking to us on very important things. I do not really want to waste the time because we have already taken 1 hour of your time. For those watching us on the social media, on Facebook, on YouTube, please tell somebody to tell somebody that we are connected, and it is high time. Real things, big discussion will be starting right now without any waste of time. As you continue to invite many, to invite others, to connect into this program, I want us to transition right away into the office of the Secretary of State for Communications and IT. Right after that, Lady Casey and I will pose some questions, and then the Secretary of State for Communications and IT will take some questions also from the people, from the public. Get ready to call in and to ask your questions or to make your contribution. We will have a big night. You must have seen what is on the lineup, and stay tuned.
Global greetings to all Ambazonians. Today is the 19th of April, 2022. First of all, 21 gun salute to our restoration forces. Last week, we mourned Field Marshal Isubu. That was one of the low points in this movement. And we hope that occasions like this do not happen. Today, I'm going to talk to the Ambazonian people on 5 items: the temporary protective status, special status, La Republique debt crisis, scathing human rights report, and the La Republique Russia military accord. On the temporary status, we Ambazonians express our profound gratitude to the Biden administration and the US Congress for granting us the temporary protective status to stay in the United States for 18 months and apply for work permit. This great Easter announcement comes at a time when the Biya regime has doubled down on the genocidal war against the Ambazonian people with the tacit support of France. We hope that Biden will push further to admit Ambazonian refugees as well as impose hefty sanctions on the Biya government, in addition to toughening the visa ban announced some time ago. We understand that only a handful of African countries have enjoyed this status in the past and for a much shorter period. By granting this status, the United States recognizes and accepts the fact that we Ambazonians, and by extension, the ARFs, are not terrorists, are purported by La République and France. And this position is consistent with the right to self-determination in a failed federation. Therefore, there is no clear distinction between there is a clear distinction between Boko Haram and the ARFs. Otherwise, the TPS should have been extended to Nigeria and Chad. We encourage Ambazonians to take advantage of this policy and stay away from predators who have been extorting money from Ambazonians in exchange for fake affidavits. We also call on the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC, to revise our current classification to be consistent with the current Biden administration as an international armed conflict, as Ambazonia is yet to obtain its sovereignty. This classification will require both La République and Ambazonia to apply the Geneva Convention in the treatment of combatants. On the special status, we were an independent country that came into a United Nations-inspired federation that has failed and is succeeded by a genocidal war. The failed federation was based on an equal status of both parties. From equal status somehow now has transformed into special status. Is that a promotion? Certainly not. The question is, where and how did we lose our equality? What happened to our equality? How do you get into a marriage as equal partners, and in the course of the marriage, a partner unilaterally cancels the pledge of equality and gives the other partner a special status, which of course is not special, but a diminished status within the household? The unanswered question remains that how did 2 Class B UN trust territories get into a United Nations-inspired federation, and one of them now has the power to grant special status to the other. That's absolute nonsense. There is nothing special. What is there in the special status for Ambazonia that is not there for the rest of La Republique? Why is it so special? These are just words. Nothing changes but the status quo that has been rebranded. We cannot leave reality to some who want to equate what obtains in Canada and Quebec. Quebec has never been an independent country that came to join with Canada. They were conquered by the British. In fact, the current Quebec land area is much larger than what obtained when the French military was summarily defeated. The conquerors, British Canadians, had the right to give Quebecois a diminished status with some special privileges. The same applies to Native Americans. They too have a special status in America, but it's not an equal status. For example, in the settlements, they don't pay taxes. So in a state where two are equal, who has the right to impose a special status to the other? Perhaps it is easier to understand it this way. Is La Republique ready to be given a special status by Ambazonia? Why not? In short, Ambazonia is perfectly happy with its sovereignty and freedom and in no mood to accept a special status. Those who want a special status are better off taking La Republique citizenship. Now, let me talk about the debt crisis in La Republique. It is getting worse by the hour. As I said last week, there's something they claim is, they call it Emergence 235, which is supposedly the time that La Republique economy will grow and be probably the best in the sub-region. In fact, it is not true. I call it the year of capitulation, the year of disappearance, the year La Republique will cease to exist as a nation. And this is why. Again, last week, I just gave you some sort of a snippet of what is going on. I told you that they spent over 2,000 billion CFA in electric generation. And that is just for generation. Now, it turns out that they spend 1,000 billion CFA for transportation. That's electric transportation. And they also spent an additional 500 billion CFA for distribution. But what was the result? There was no power. Now, they met not too long ago and actually determined that in order for them to have electricity flow, they will need an additional 6,000 billion francs CFA. That is the situation for you to see. Ambazonia, we cannot get into this mess. Our economy will be ruined for life. Now, they haven't stopped there. Now, they brought up another solution that they're going to develop micro electricity stations. In fact, they have planned 50 more power plants now to boost rural electrification. And the pilot plant is actually installed in Mungwa, somewhere in the Adamawa region, for a cost of $1.89 million for a capacity of 1.39 megawatt. And this is supposed to benefit 2,500 households. That's about 10,000 people. Now, we should know that 85% of La Republique or Cameroonians consume about 400 kilowatt hour a month. And most people actually live on about $1 or less a day. So the question is, how are they going to sustain these investments? The government has no clue. So, giving you a ballpark pack of the debt they have, as of December 31st, 2020, the debt is 10,334 billion francs CFA. That's approximately 46% of the GDP. If you consider a population of 24 million, it means that each person now owes about 430,000 francs CFA. But you should know, we are talking about every human being, babies, the old, the disabled. This is how much they owe already. Now, if we project this into 2035, that will be about doubled. But remember, debt is compounded. It is not a simple interest. For those who remember that class they took in primary school, debt is compounded, which means that whatever you pay is the sum of the principal plus the interest. You combine that and then you apply the interest on it. So it's going to spiral into a very, very large amount. Now, another little snippet about road construction to tell you how mismanaged this country is. It has been determined that in La République, a kilometer of road costs about 205 million francs CFA, compared to about half of it, that's 100 million francs CFA in the rest of Africa. So the question is, where does the other half go to? Somebody is actually taking this money and putting it in his pocket. And just to give you another aspect about La République and how they manage the public, anything of public interest. We all know about road accidents. We know about train derailments and even plane crashes. But we realize that whenever that happens, nobody shows up in government. It's as if the people are left to their own. Unlike in other places where, the government takes active part in making sure that whether it's a result of human error, is it administrative controls, the engineering controls, or in other words, PPE. You can talk about a car. You probably make sure that cars are properly maintained and they have the right equipment in case they get into accidents to save human lives. But La République doesn't care. So I'm going to read something that was wrote I got from WikiLeaks, by the way. So anybody who knows about WikiLeaks, you can actually Google WikiLeaks and Cameroon, and you read a lot about some of the cable that was sent by the Americans regarding La République. And when I read it, you realize that that's exactly what happens today. And that's been the situation over and over since the beginning of this so-called failed federation. So road accidents, train derailments, plane crashes, a repeat of incompetence of La République over and over again. So this is actually copied from WikiLeaks. The La République handling of Kenya Airways crash, and that was in 2007, I think May 5th, is a metaphor for the problems that plague Cameroon's governance more generally and stymie even the best efforts for reform. Even observers steeped in the peccadilloes of African governments professed incredulity at what they perceived to be La République's complete disinterest and incompetence in the face of a terrible and enduring disaster. The characteristics that manifested themselves so starkly in this episode: an inwardly focused ruling elite, a president who takes all key decisions despite being out of touch, excessive deference to hierarchy and protocol, no sense of urgency. This is what La République is all about. So you have a president who is totally out of touch with the people, and nobody has a sense of urgency no matter what happens. So a few other horror stories about the Cameroon economy. There's a company called Sodeblé, which was created in 1975 with $2 billion francs CFA investment from the Cameroon state and matching investment from Abu Dhabi Development Fund from Saudi government. At that time, wheat was 30% of Cameroon's annual food imports. That's about 5 billion francs CFA annually. The industrial wheat farm and processing plant had a capacity of 125,000 tons. The company quickly expanded its production from 10,000 hectares to about 50,000. As wheat demand grew, the company successfully doubled the jobs it created from 300 to 800 during that time. The company was mismanaged and ran into bankruptcy. In 2020, Cameroon imported 860,000 tons of wheat from Russia, Canada, France, the USA. Demand in 2020 was up 30,000 tons from 2019. The cost of wheat imports reached 900,000 tons in 2022. Sorry, the cost of what imports reached 900,000 in 2022 at a cost of over 160 billion francs CFA. What does that tell you? You have rising cost of food. For example, a very popular Kumba bread now goes for 300 to 400 francs a loaf. And if you can imagine that some families live on less than $1 a day, so you can imagine they have to make a choice between having breakfast or having a loaf of bread and having medicine or going to hospital. So this is a very, very tragic situation for La Republique. And this is exactly why we do not think we have anything to do with these people. Now, talking about the scathing human rights reports on Ambazonia. In fact, recently, not so long ago, we have a report here of the human rights report from the State Department, and I'm just going to give you a few items here on the human rights report, just to give you tell you what is happening. So this, I'm just going to read a part of the executive summary here. So this is the report written by the State Department. So Cameroon is a republic dominated by a strong presidency, and the president retains power over legislative and judicial branches of government. The country held legislative elections in February 2020 that were marked by irregularities. The ruling party won 152 out of 180 seats in parliament. So Paul Biya has served as president since 1982. He was last re-elected in 2018 in an election marked by irregularities. Whenever you hear about irregularities, it simply means there was fraud. So the results did not really reflect what actually took place in the ballot boxes. So the National Police and the National Gendarmerie are responsible for internal security. The former reports to the General Delegation of National Security and the latter to the Secretariat for Defense in charge of the Gendarmerie. The Army shares some domestic security responsibilities. It reports to the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of defense. The Rapid Intervention Battalion reports regularly to the President. Civilian and military authorities did not maintain effective control over the security forces. There were credible reports that members of the security forces committed numerous abuses. So casualties rose in the Anglophone crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions. Anglophone separatists used improvised explosives devices with greater success. So we have to note that, okay? So the government continues to crack down on opposition, opposition movements, and some of them were actually sentenced to prison. Now, significant human rights issues include credible reports of unlawful and arbitrary killings, including extrajudicial killings by the government and non-state armed groups, forced disappearances by the government, torture and cases of cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment and punishment by the government and non-state armed groups, harsh and life-threatening prison conditions, arbitrary arrest and detention, political prisoners and detainees, serious problems with the independence of the judiciary, arbitrary and unlawful interference with privacy, punishment of family members for offenses allegedly committed by an individual, serious abuses in conflict, including abductions and unlawful recruitment and use of child soldiers by non-state groups, serious restrictions on freedoms of expression and media, including violence and threats of violence and unjustified arrests and prosecutions against journalists, censorship, criminal libel laws, substantial interference with the right of peaceful assembly and freedom of association, including overly restrictive laws on the organization, funding, and operation of non-governmental organizations and civil society organizations, serious restrictions on freedom of movement, inability of citizens to change the government peacefully through free and fair elections, serious and unreasonable restrictions on political participation, serious government corruption, lack of investigations and accountability for gender-based violence, trafficking in persons, crimes involving violence and threats of violence targeting lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or intersex persons, and existence of use of laws criminalizing same-sex sexual conduct between adults. So this is just a summary of what is happening in La République under the government of President Paul Biya. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the La République and Russia military accord. So, Cameroon-Russia military accord signed on the 12th of April 2022 by Betty Assomo Joseph, that's the La République defense minister, and General S.K. Chugu for the Russian Federation. Dear Ambazonians and the people of the world, La République du Cameroon thinks the self-determination demand by Ambazonia is a rat mole game. The strategy to defeat a rat mole is to close all exit routes or corner holes and kill the game right in its hole in the ground. This strategy is used by infants in the Ambazonian countryside to kill rat moles. Every child with a dog on the farm knows this deadly trap. Ambazonians are a nation, a fact reaffirmed by the World Court. Our right to self-determination, self-government, and peaceful development are guaranteed under the United Nations Charter. We were once self-governing and shall be self-governing no matter what France thinks for La République. La République has pursued and signed this accord with Russia on the 12th of April 2022 after declaring neutrality on the war in Ukraine. Dear Ambazonians, this scheming by La République to sideline the U.S. bipartisan Senate Resolution 684 is not lost on the continental powers who keep this world in peace. 4 days later, the U.S. grants temporary protected status to our people and doubles down on U.S. bipartisan Senate Resolution 684. All our efforts by the United States to save Ambazonian lives. TPS is not about Boko Haram. If it were, then the government of the United States would have equally granted the TPS to Nigerians, people in Niger, and in Chad. Let us examine one root cause of this sovereignty conflict between Ambazonia and La République. Unlike Cameroon, France, and the Francophonie, except Canada and Guinea, the record has it that Russia The United States, with other nations, voted at the 994th meeting of the United Nations General Assembly, sitting April 21st, 1961 in New York. Sorry, the 94th meeting of the United Nations General Assembly, sitting April 21st, 1961 in New York for our freedom. They voted by a huge margin to grant independence to the people of Southern Cameroon to form a bona fide federation with La République. No one at the United Nations at that time, except La République and France, knew that La République had ceded her sovereignty to France 60 months earlier on the 26th of December 1959. The people of Southern Cameroon could never have any freedom or independence in a federation with a country that had extended neocolonialism under France. La République and France came to that meeting at the United Nations, carefully hiding their slavery pack. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a clear case of fraudulent concealment in order to steal the sovereignty of Ambazonia. Listen carefully. At that meeting in 1961, La République demanded to have the former British Southern Cameroons ceded as a gift to her. The United Kingdom, which was the most powerful member of the United Nations Trusteeship Council, refused. La République demand, therefore, went into a vote, and La République lost the democratic vote by a wide margin, despite support from its master France and the Francophone world except Canada and Guinea. Now, we have a failed federation in Cameroon at war, and La République under France is running away from its root causes. La République wants to use blistering violence and genocide to overturn the same democratic vote she had lost at the United Nations General Assembly of April 21st, 1961. We caught the country thief wannabe. How stupid is that? Do these people have any education? Maybe they have poor education and low analytical skills from their outre-mer schools that France reserves for them and controls the education curriculum in La République. Dear Ambazonians, this situation of a failed federation demands a sovereign referendum in the component states as required under international law, that is UN Resolution 1541, 15, subsection 7. Not foolish annexation to swallow a smaller federal state and then scheming with Russia and entering into banana trade deals with the United Kingdom. Commenting on the disaster in British Southern Cameroon on Twitter, the government of Russia has stated that she is very aware and rightly vexed about the situation in what Russia calls the two English-speaking provinces in Cameroon, which are Ambazonia. The outbreak of war, 2017, shows that La République is seemingly inexperienced in diplomacy. I say so because Canada held a referendum to settle sovereignty conflict with Quebec by votes. The United Kingdom of Great Britain held a referendum to settle a brewing sovereignty conflict with Scotland. France granted 3 sovereign referendums to New Caledonia, which took place in 2018, 2020, and 2021 to avoid war with the indigenous New Caledonians. We Ambazonians remain resolute to fight La République to the last man standing. La République is a vassal state of France and had ceded her sovereignty to France on December 26, 1959 treaty. Therefore, she has no sovereignty to share with Ambazonia or anyone. La République du Cameroun is French. Ambazonians seek to maintain Anglo-Saxon oriented. Again, we Ambazonians make this critical choice at this time in our history because it defines a better future for our children. Also, be fully aware that There is no industrially emerged country in the Francophone outside metropolitan France, which includes Belgium and Switzerland. Thank you. That's all I have for today. Over to you, Paddy.
Yeah, hello, sir. Good evening, and fellow Amazonians, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome back. I have with me to anchor this segment of the questions the press secretary of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, so beautifully present here tonight, and that is none other but Lady Casey. Lady Casey, good evening.
Good evening, SOS. Thank you so much for the great analysis and presentation. And thank you, Paddy,
Thank you.
for bringing me up here today again.
Yeah.
Good to see you all.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's quite amazing. We just listened to the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, and when you listen to his carefully chosen words, the way he analyzes crack into the current situation, you understand why strategically the president opted to bring him at this time. And he's here now to take some questions. What do you think about the way he was uh, communicating those issues this evening?
Wow. What I think absolutely, very easy to listen to, I can listen to the SOS talk from Nati next year because his very delivery pace was just on point. The essence of his communication was very clear and precise, and articulating complex information as statistics and numbers, and communicating that to the understanding of, I believe, anybody who listened carefully would grasp what he was analyzing, especially in terms of the state of La Republique and their finances, and why Ambazonia should do everything to not be part of the failures and continue sinking of La Republique. So that is just one of the things. And the articles from which I don't even know how much minute I have, but I can go on and on about so much he said. But the article he read, the from where he said he got it from WikiLeaks, and that is so amazing. It just shows that the US fully for a while, which we anyway, some people already know, that understands the conflict, understand the war, understand the Amazonian position for a very long time. And what he read there, they even state that our restoration fighters have been using explosives successfully, and that's one thing I did not miss in what he read.
Yeah.
And it's quite, um I would say it's inspiring, it's motivating to know that what we are doing is being noted. And this is why I always used to say that the best form of diplomacy or of international diplomacy is home front action, is action on the home front. And that will cause a whole lot of reactions and support and conflict resolutions to come in our favor if we
Yeah.
put up the resistance further stronger and stronger.
The,
So
the
that's just
required
some of it.
resistance. Yeah, the
Yes.
required resistance. And this leads me to the very first question, Dr. Mungwa. It's quite important that I take it from bottom top, and that is what is heated. We woke up today to see an official statement coming in from Russia and Cameroon in a military alliance. During such a time, Cameroon is not just borrowing or seeking to borrow from his partners, or with the intention to fund the war because they are even unable to pay teachers. We've now seen them. We understand the position Russia occupies when it comes to the global order. Russia's philosophy vis-a-vis the current war order and the West. And this during a time when Cameroon is fighting this is the most fierce battle Cameroon has ever been involved in their history since independence. And now they have Russia as a partner. You have actually made some statements, which I would say these are policy statements. That is the way the government sees them. But to get into the technicalities or intricacies of it, I'd like you to tell us um, what do we expect on the ground, and how is the interim government equipped to respond?
Okay, right. Thank you, Paddy. I'm going to be, how I put it? I'll put it in a way that I hope you understand this. First, this military alliance between La République and France, sorry, and Russia, don't be surprised that is actually coming from France. Why?
Absolutely.
It's very simple. Russia has beaten France in Mali, Burkina Faso, or wherever, the Central African Republic, and they're definitely afraid of Russia. So they're saying, if somebody is stronger than you, is it not better for you to come into some sort of entente? Since they know that if Russia gets into Cameroon, they are finished, they rather make friends with Russia so that Russia stays away from Cameroon, so that it becomes a French property. That is the tactic here. Okay? Because I
Yeah.
hear there were rumors that I'm not even sure that is true, that Ambazona wanted to create a sort of relationship with Russia. So they're afraid. They say, France said, look, these people are terrible. You don't want them to come to Cameroon to destroy us. So you'd rather go and make friends with them. And that's why La République stayed away from the UN vote that took place not so long ago regarding the war with Ukraine. So these are all strategy that France has. Go and create friends with Russia because we are finished. The second part of it is, how much can La République get out of that relationship? That is not the only country that La République has signed a military accord with outside France. You have the Israelis. They have a military pact with La République, or they probably still have it. So they brought in some Israeli security experts and intelligence to train B and other military experts. But what has that led them to? If just signing a military pact is a panacea for winning the war, then maybe La République is in a good place, but I don't think so. So it's a matter of wait and see to see exactly what that will turn out to be. It's actually a
Okay.
strategy that the France has told La République to do in order to make sure that they stay out of La République. And remember, if you read the accord, the first line actually says that they should respect all internal conflicts, which means that if there's an internal conflict, and since La République has defined the war with Ambazonia as internal, they should not interfere in that. And as such, they will not interfere with whatever they do in Ukraine, because the Russians state that Ukraine was part of Russia. So according to La République, it's an internal matter, just for its convenience. So just read the first line of that accord. So it tells you it's simply to protect them, so that if there is any move against La République, they should not be part of it. And also, they are looking for a big brother. They know that based on the on what the Americans have done in terms of the Senate resolutions, they believe that America is on the Ambazonian side. So they're looking for an equivalent. And France is too weak to stand against the Americans. So they rather go for Russia. So okay, if Russia is coming, if America is coming, okay, we have our Russians to come and beat the Americans out. That's the mental state of La République now. They are so desperate. And it's actually the ruling junta those want to grab power. They want somebody to be their big brother. And this is historical. It's not the first time. Even the days of Kodok of the UPC, during campaigns, they always said, we need a big brother to protect us. So whatever we do, it should not get out. Nobody should question us. And France has been consistent with that. Although France will go out and say, oh, they talk against all the human rights abuses in Cameroon, but they never do anything beyond talk. And it also shows up in the WikiLeaks. If you read the WikiLeaks and the position of France, oh yes, they're always on that democratic side. They will talk about it, but not a single action to push it forward. So that's the strategy, and we understand that. Thank you.
Okay. SOS, following, you answer part of the question. I want follow-up questions I wanted to ask in this your second part of explanation, but there's a depth to it that I would see if you can touch. You mentioned that La Republique is looking for a big brother. How do you think that France is, because of their position that have been hanging around Britain and America, claiming to be an ally or not an ally, doing in quote that conny things around them, and they have also not aggressively or openly joined the Americans in sanctioning Russia against you know any sanctions to Russia, in regards to the war in Ukraine. So do you think that because the America is showing a sign that they support Amazonia, they recognize the conflict for what it is, to an extent? Do you think that France is lobbying Russia so that it would put America off from, rendering the little support they have done so far to Amazonians?
My goodness. I think many people do not seem to understand the strength and the reach of the Americans. There is no country on earth that can bully or threaten the Americans. They keep going, and let alone La République or France for that matter. The French economy is sustained by the American economy, um, and many other countries around the world. So it is, France cannot dictate to America what it should do. It cannot, because we have strong institutions here in the United States, and it's not just the president that makes decisions. We remember that this temporary status actually went through Congress. Biden just didn't just wake up one morning and said, "Okay, you have a temporary status." It doesn't work that way. Okay, so in a country of laws, and you have very strong institutions, it may be slow, but it's always very effective. And I don't think this is an issue that that will. I don't know how to put it. I mean, if you, again you look at the reach of America, I mean, America can do uh, lots of things unilaterally, and I mean one of them is actually this TPS, which we are all enjoying today, this Easter present. Um, And so that's what I can say. I don't think, I know when it comes to human rights, Americans won't budge. I think it is, we hope that with this status, maybe the French will try to put more pressure on La République to change its ways and join the nation of democratic and law abiding countries. I think to me, that's the message that has been sent to La République.
Okay, do
Yeah,
you think that do you think, sorry, Paddy, do you think that La Republic pack, military pack with, because we know America withdrew some of their military support for La Republic as a result, because of this conflict. They said they were using it to kill Amazonians for human rights reasons, like you mentioned. Do you think the pact La Republic have signed with Russia, we all know that that was, facilitated by France, even though they're trying to pretend to talk as if they are for democracy. Everybody knows France by now. and the nature of the country and leadership and their values, we know is nowhere near anything of civility. So do you think that that will instead, work in our favor, in Amazonia's favor, where America would, eventually come out rightly and give us the direct and needful support?
Backup.
I hope so. I should think so. I mean, the first indication is that just a couple of days after the military accord, we had the temporary status established, um, temporary protective status. I mean, we didn't see it coming. Um, so there are lots of things that happen behind the scene, and I'm not here to tell you exactly what is going on. So it's quite possible that it will work in our favor. I mean, we just saw one of the fruit of that, or one of the fruits of that attitude. So the more La Republic tries to run away from the from meeting with under the Swiss-led process, I mean, the more certain things will be falling along the way. So it's just a matter of wait and see. Um, and Dr. Sacco is well in touch with the Swiss process, and things are moving really favorably for us. And we hope that in the very near future we can see real progress in that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paddy, over to you.
Yeah, I want us to take some of these, to take questions based on these things you have discussed today really quickly. But you realize that this is a pressing issue. I would say this is breaking news. And I'm talking to Amazonians watching us tomorrow with Undaunted. I hope to bring technocrats on the platform so that we can uh, we can really assess or estimate or break down this whole thing based on the policy statements that have been provided for us tonight. Now, let us look at this very closely, Secretary Mungwa. Diplomacy, I would say, it's a complex milieu. And a person can just become your friend. And there is also no doubt that your affiliations can affect your relations. This is Russia that the West is against vis-a-vis the war in Ukraine. The same Russia is in an alliance or a pact with Cameroon. And we know the grip of France in the Cameroons and why they are sponsoring the war in Cameroon. One of French candidate Le Pen believes that France should be liberal in their foreign policy vis-a-vis Russia. Now, this is what I want to ask. Cameroon, on one part, is making alliances, creating friends, most probably because of the de facto, they want to defeat Amazonia in the war. What is the interim government doing? Is the interim government stick and categorical and numb and just looking at the Swiss process? Or are we thinking that we can also break the rules, create some friends within the West and out of the West? Because it's a war, it's a desperate measure, and we have to win. Is the interim government thinking out of the box? Is the interim government limiting their reach with the Swiss process? Aside from self-defense that we are prosecuting, lava storm, the resurrection of Insubu, draft upcoming, and Swiss talks, that is diplomacy. Are we thinking that we can have different partners, which are not necessarily actors in the West?
I'm going to make my answer as short as possible. We actually thought about this even before they signed the accord with Russia. The president is well aware of understanding that you have permanent interests and not permanent enemies. That is a slogan that we all know in the diplomatic circle. So, but I'm not the one to detail to you the sort of strategies that the president has. Yes, we are not just limited or no, we are not just limiting ourselves with the Swiss process and trying to defend ourselves. There are other options on the table that the president has talked about, but I don't think it is in my position to say that. We have a strategist as president, and these ideas have been with him for the past 4 years. It's just a matter of what are the availability and the opportunities. So whenever
Mm.
there's an opportunity for something additional, he does not fail to look into it. So that's all I can say now. But it is not my responsibility to tell you again. Diplomacy at times works better when less is talked about it.
I like the way you craft your word. Lady Casey, please.
Okay. Well, I thought you were feeling on with that, but on you said you will continue with this issue, and it's not in your place to give us detail at the moment, especially in diplomacy. And personally, I totally agree with that. And you touched on so many aspects in your presentation, and I just wanted to take us aback a bit. When you were talking about the state of La Republique economy, and you know giving those useful analyses, telling Amazonians why we should, how I heard it anyways, how we should know that La Republique is a dead state and is dying, and we cannot, on no circumstances, believe that we can even federate with them. And based on the information you gave tonight, when you were preparing this information, what was your thought for Amazonians? What particular message or information do you think you want them to get from that part of your presentation that will enable them to understand that this war, it must be won?
Okay, one thing I'm going to tell you is that after when we get our sovereignty, between 10 to 15 years, we are going to overtake La Republique in our GDP. That I can tell you because we have an economic roadmap that is second to none. So let it be known that after sovereignty, give us 10 to 15 years. La Republique will be like a sprint where by the time La Republique does have the track, will be out of the field, will be done. I can guarantee that. And you have to understand, let me give you some statistics. Do you know that, I don't know how old you were when Ghana was going through a series of military coups. In fact, a good number of Ghanaians were actually in Cameroon. 15 years later, we're talking today. Ghana's economy is stronger than the Ivory Coast, is stronger than Guinea, is stronger than Burkina Faso is stronger. All the Francophone countries, West Africa. That is the Anglo-Saxon spirit. And you can imagine that Macron is going to Ghana to look for business for France. Can you imagine? The same country that does not want us to be sovereign, the same country that has taken the independence, confiscated the independence of La Republique through the Accord of December 26, 1959. How can you do that? If every colonial power did the same thing to other countries, like just as France did to Cameroon, where will France be going in order to look for business? They go to South Africa, they go to Kenya, they go to Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yet, all French-speaking West African and Central African countries are deadbeat. Nothing works.
Thank you. Thank you,
That is what they are
Secretary
afraid of.
Mungwa.
That is what France is afraid of.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Secretary
Okay.
Mungra. We have a technocrat here, the firebrand, uh, powerful. That's Barrister Fru. John So is just called in to chip in some idea. I really wish his schedule of work has changed, and that's why you're not seeing him often on TV to come and do some analysis with us. I hope Undaunted will be able to have him tomorrow in the news for some analysis. But Barrister Fro, you're live on ABC. Please talk to us.
Yes, thank you, Paddy. I have been listening to the program. It's very interesting and very, very good. Now, I have just a few comments to say about the accord that was signed on the 12th of April 2022 between La République de Cameroon and Russia. We all know that autocratic regimes stick together. When La République abstained from that vote in the United Nations, I saw it coming.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to catch him on what is happening in Ukraine and how the world is acting towards Russia. And they thought that being on the side of Russia will give them some leverage. That is why they hurriedly went to Moscow and signed that accord. That accord, I have read it very carefully. Just like Russia is claiming Ukraine to be part of Russia, La République is claiming the Federal Republic of Amazonia, Southern Cameroon, as part of its country. And all of them are dead wrong because these are two independent countries. Ukraine is independent. The Southern Cameroon, Amazonia is independent, was independent and is now independent. And La République now wants Russia on its side, thinking that Russia will be able to give them arms that they don't have now. They don't even have money. Their treasury is dry.
Yes.
They cannot acquire any arms. France is no longer financing them. The only option they had was to rush to the Soviet, to the Russian Federation and ask for aid, and ended up with a military accord. What is the value of that military accord? To us Ambazonians, that military accord is of no consequence. I explain. Since the beginning of the conflict between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon, France has brought in mercenaries from Chad, from Djibouti, from Mali, from the Congo, from all over to come and fight in La République, in Ambazonia, and of course our restoration forces taught them a lesson.
Yes.
Now, military equipment, military hardware does not fight a war. It is the determination, the morale of the soldiers and the determination of the soldiers that use this military equipment to fight war. If it was just dependent only on equipment, La République would have finished us long ago. But because we have the high morale, we know why we are fighting. We are fighting for our independence. We are fighting for our freedom. La République has had no reason to fight us, other than economic, selfish reasons. Therefore, their soldiers don't have even the slightest morale to fight. They don't even have the slightest intelligence to fight. They don't even have the tactic to fight the restoration forces, even from the beginning of this crisis. Even though we started without any equipment, we started with sticks and stones and rubber guns. We went on to
then guns,
AK-47s.
Yeah.
Get then guns and then AK-47s, and now we have the explosive devices. La République has all the military hardware in the world. They have not been able to defeat us. What is it that Russia will give La République that they will now use to fight us? That military accord is of no consequence and is carefully written. maybe La Republic was afraid that Russia was going to intervene in the war in Amazonia on our behalf.
Yeah.
Or I don't understand. Because what is it that La Republic will get from Russia in terms of military hardware that they have not gotten from France or from China?
Yeah.
So I'm here to tell Amazonians that that accord is a non-event. And secondly, diplomatically, like we rightly said, we have common interest with any country that supports our cause.
Oh, yeah.
The Russians have shown that they are not to be trusted. Because if you look at the states around Russia after the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia has been unable to make friends with any of the states around it, whether Georgia, whether Ukraine, whether Poland, and all the other states. Yes.
Yeah.
That is why they cannot have anything to do with any of those frontline states. That's why they are fighting Ukraine. That's why they fought Georgia. The same thing with La Republic. They think La Republic thinks that we are now the same like Russia. We should associate with Russia so that they can help us defeat Amazonia. I am saying, La Republic, you have only one way to go. Join us on the negotiating table in Geneva. Any other thing is a non-starter. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mungwa, you want to talk to Daddy?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, thank you, Barrister John Fru. I actually miss you, on this program. You always were a very great partner on this struggle and, on this revolution. So I hope you'll be able to come on board and talk about your legal expertise to help the Amazonian people. Yeah, absolutely. He's absolutely correct. As I mentioned, you have permanent interests, not permanent enemies. So I stop there, and I can tell you that Dr. Sako is on top of this game, and he understands what is good for Amazonia. And when the time comes, he's going to explain to you whatever decisions that he has taken, but with the fundamental fact that we are never going to sell our sovereignty for anything else, not a union and not a federation. That is definitely not on the table. That I can assure you.
Okay, thank you very much. Fellow Amazonians watching from the home front and everywhere, you can start calling in. Dr. Mungwa has some more minutes to take your calls, so you can call in. Lady Casey, please.
Yeah, yes, we've really, and I'll say that Barrister Fru have just, summarized and simplify everything else we have just been talking about, and I really also want to agree with him. I just want to make some comments on what he said in so many ways that it's a non-event for Amazonians, and our focus is to keep home front, is to apply the right pressure, is that what you put, the right pressure on the appropriate pressure, adequate pressure on the home front. And um, Dr. Mungwa, SOS,
Yes.
the home front, a lot has been going on about home front. But he mentioned the lava storm, fire for fire, and the upcoming war award 2022 that is coming on, and we have the emergency fund drive for the comrades, and we have Goketunja coming up, I think this weekend before, and then few 2 weeks after Goketunja, I think we have Ndian. And this is the efforts of the interim government to ensure that our restoration fighters who are most active are well equipped and protected. And on that note, um, what is the interim government, as the spokesperson of the government, um, what else are they doing to ensure that to ensure the efficiency or the effectiveness of implementing, you know, firstly, implementing all the policies, plans, and strategies, some of which we know, some of which I've mentioned, and some of which came out from the last conference. How far have they gone with the implementation, and what is the interim government, what have they put in place to ensure that this will be done efficiently and effectively, that will yield result for Ambazonia?
Okay. One of the fundamental problems that the interim government had to solve, starting from ASSC2, was trust. Because without trust, nothing works. It was very important that coming out of the ASSC2, we gain the trust of the Ambazonian people. And that trust you could see in the installation of the interim House of Representatives. Now, Ambazonians know that we have an interim house. Who else has done that? This is a very important democratic institution that, despite all the odds, we're able to meet in Washington, D.C. We're able to craft all these laws. Everything was voted, and the people are in place. It means that we now have a parliament. How wonderful is that? Which means that there is devolution of powers. It's not just Dr. Sako sitting and signing bills or telling the Ambazonian people what needs to be done. We have a government. We have the legislative now. Okay, we have the legislative arm. So, and that is very important. Do you know how powerful that is? Do you know what? I mean, just look at the number of people who showed up to see the installation of the interim house. Now, put that aside. The next thing we had to do is to prove to the Amazonian people that when people break the law, especially in a foreign land, regarding something that is so dear to us, we take action. We don't just sit by. And we saw what happened with the Treasury, where we're able to determine that they also broke American law. And now they have to face the consequences. That is a solidification of that trust, making sure that Amazonians understand that when the government says something, it does it. It is not easy, as I told you, for a group like ours fighting for sovereignty in a foreign country. We have to be able to understand there's a fine line that divides, something that somebody does that breaks the law, or something that has nothing to do with the country where you're residing. And if you don't break the law of that country, unfortunately, there's just nothing you can do. But what the coup plotters did, they went across the line, and we had to stop them. Now you see what happened last Saturday and Sunday. People are coming to show that trust in the government by paying the award for 20.
The emergency fundraising for Bowie.
Exactly, emergency fundraising for Bowie. Thank you. Okay, so this is part and parcel of that restoration of restoring trust in the government. And if people don't trust the government, there's no way they can even give it a dime. Why? Look at the coup plotters. See what they're doing in terms of raising funds. Tell me how much they've raised. Tell me whether they have any hope of having an audit to show the Ambazonians what they've done with that money. Do they have a treasury? What status do they enjoy? Is it a 501c like we do in the United States, or is it in England? Who is in charge? Why have they stopped, or why haven't they started asking the Mbariku Marianta government to show the Ambazonians what they've done with that money, or what is the process that they are taking to make sure that the money is properly used? They're not doing it. Nobody trusts them. The only people who trust them are those who are hiring them in La Republique. Banqui, Chief Diongute, Peter Mafani Musonge, Philemon Yang.
John Flundi.
These are these are the people, I mean, they're answerable to, not to the Ambazonian people, to the Ambazonians or the Ambazonian people. We should know this. It's very clear.
Thank you very much, sir. We have a caller on the line, and he's been patient. Okay. Caller, thank you very much. There are lots of people calling in already. Make your comment and a brief question, please. You're live.
Thank you so much, Fadi. Thank you, SOS, for the program. Undaunted be our flagship program, but I like this one because it's very educative. I like the in-depth which Dr. Mungwa does and the department made the research to expose the failed state of La Republic. I like it. Many people don't see the importance of this, but then it tells us why we cannot beat this union.
Yes.
They is so educative to their own citizens to be able to understand that their country is a failed state, and it's really a failed state. So I like just keep bringing up these kind of things. We should keep knowing because we are very ignorant about them.
Yeah.
But you, from an engineering perspective and from a technical perspective, you can see into this, and then you break it down to us in our normal, narrow mind that we can understand.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the great work.
Yeah.
Now, getting into the accord that was signed with Cameroon and the Russian. Let me keep that for my last question. Let me make my comment. Then I'll ask that as a question.
You have 90 seconds, maximum 2 minutes.
Okay, no worries. Thank you very much. Let me make it short. For the TPS, I just wish to let the interim government try to synthesize Cameroonians and Ambazonians who have benefited from this to show as a sign of gratitude to be able to contribute to our natural fund raiser programs and our programs that we have, because this has given them a lot. They can have now real jobs. They don't need to use post document to work. So if they can sacrifice only a very small percentage as a sign of gratitude for what we have done to them and contribute for us to prosecute this work, will be good. Yeah. I don't know what the interim may have to do as a program and yet to reach out to them to be able to contribute something as as a return of favor.
As a retainership.
Yes, maybe something just very small. So the Indian government should look for a way that they can come up with a program to synthesize, to reach out to these people, let them, and many of them will want to do it, trust me.
Yeah.
Because they know the benefit this has given to them.
Yeah.
Then, okay, question now concerning the Russian accord with Cameroon. We know that Russia is a broke state now. Every country is against them. Cameroon getting in the midst of a time like this to sign an accord with them. What is the message are they giving to the West and other people who are showing so much solidarity with Ukraine? American being our friend now, what is the message that is being asked them, and what do you think will be their response to this? Thank you very much.
Okay, SOS, over to you.
Okay, thank you. First, I would like to thank this caller. I think very bright young man, is looking outside the box. And I think the idea that we can approach La Republic citizens who enjoyed this status thanks to us, that they should chip in something. That's a great idea and something that we really have to look into to see how that can be done. I mean, I also appreciate the fact that he enjoys this program because of the facts that we present to the Ambazonian people. Regarding the accord with Russia, I don't know if I said this. I said this. It is a sign of desperation. If you are drowning, even if you see a snake, wouldn't you hold on to it? You hold on to anything. Hair, you hold on to hair. A root, you hold on to a root. It's a sign of desperation. I mean, that's all I can qualify. It's whenever you find somebody who is, let's say you're doing something that you don't like, you look for somebody who agrees with you because you want company. Birds of the same feather flock together. I mean, we learned this a long time ago, right? Yeah. So they're looking for people of similar mental state. Okay, people, dictators, people who have a powerful presidency where they don't listen to anybody but themselves. Yeah, they're looking for friends who think like them, and hopefully friends who are much stronger, who can bully others on their behalf. I mean, that's what France has been doing for the past 60 years. Now they realize that France may not do it effectively, depending on the people they're against. Now, with a little advice from the French, they say, go and see those Russians. Allez voir les Russes. Huh? Maybe they can protect you, and by protecting you, we still have you. You know, it's a very delicate game here they're playing.
Mhm.
In the end, France gains and keeps Russia off of their problems. So is that simple.
That's true.
Well,
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
Right.
we have another caller. The SOS will be taking just a few more questions. Caller Chiba Nelson is online. He has been waiting for a while. Go ahead, please.
Okay, Paddy, can you hear me?
Very loud and clear. Ambazonia can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, and I thank Lady Casey and our able sector of communication for the information you are passing out to our people. So I just want to put this one in our own language. First, I'll be happy with one of the people that calls them, because the last caller we talk for they don't talk something for the way be very, very important. Where it talks say the people where they would benefit for the TPS, maybe they try for the support. And I want to add something for them. I say people where they would benefit for the TPS, they know say now a program for 18 months, and after 18 months they will also need way for say me they renew the program. So me they step up not only by contributing, me they come up with videos and audios and speak out loud and speak out loud for talk for tell me the international community know the reason why, or America me you know regret why they be give them that status. The reason why we talk this one so now, because some people they will only go take the thing, go hide up or back, and when problem don't occur for them, they still come back. So we will need as many people as possible when they gain the program. Me they come start to make live video talk, even for ABC, if they gain the capability for talk, they talk and explain and sell our stories. Because journalists them for different countries, they will try for contact them for get more information for them. Which way I want to talk about this Russian issue. We don't understand, say, the world order. The world, they all change. We get the time when the Greeks, they command the world. We get the British, we get different people. America, all the command too. And anything they take place today, now for try to upset the world order. So we'll not get for minimize somebody. La Republic, it already get protection from France and China, even in the level of the Security Council. Yeah. And when I see, I'm saying, the African countries, most of them, even in the time when we want to get independence, they be try for sideline we, because our own people, they be attack themselves with the Kwame Nkrumah for Ghana, and with the UPC people, them where they be like pro-communist, where they be anti-colonialism. So now why that way they see and say they no be want to see a communist state, communist alliance state between Nigeria and La Republic. Now, why that way they can't move with that this thing where they move on for day. So today, state them inside Africa, like Burkina Faso, Mali, and the rest, they don't stand against the same France. And now France knows Russia today, even for Central Africa and all the like. And if they for all day, if something happen, they will usually come say they want to go right to the Gulf of Guinea, and for go to La Republic, they're not going to get the pass. But Amazon are a free land. When even they come for day, no man of you can chase them out. So we're not going to minimize them. You see, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Sergei Lavrov, it talks they did not be properly decolonize Africa, and it refer to people like us and the rest. And they talk, Macron talks, Europe don't over depend on America. So it didn't say America, they dictate everything for them. They want to find a way for try to put a balance and whatsoever thing. But however, if opportunity come out like this one way it come out, now for tell with story with facts, maybe I say we the one talk say we condemn somebody, we must tell with story with facts to the extent say when anything come tomorrow, anybody they get for who we find. Now the less way Amazon again forget them for here, especially to the restoration forces. Now for CMC, people where they can't fool for back they talk say, oh, we wanna drop guns and go for GDR center, we wanna go for national dialogue, special status, La Republic will solve this matter, they will pass through the church, the chiefs and other kind of them. La Republic is not one come for solve that, not state if he can't give you independence. If you deny your own government, then you would ahead to the public government. No, another government now will get part of the country. Put them. Now, whether you go for join your AGA, support your countries and your interim government, we stand for the Swiss talk international mediation. Because what will happen when I say, La Republic, they can't fool for the talk say they so, oh, they will solve this thing for peace, return to normalcy, and all those things. Yet, La Republic, they still go sign treaties, they go sign things for carry gun, for can't kill all people them when they do for inside forest for them. So time don't call away. We get for even ask challenging questions to those federalists and unionists, the Frundi, they are Bobala and the rest them. When they can't talk, say this, so oh, me the stop war, they go back for drawing for go talk for peace. But why can they not stand and challenge La Republic for continuing going out there to seek for weapons to come and kill our own people? Remember, if La Republic is coming to kill Amazonia, they are going to kill everybody, no exception, not even the federalists or unionists. So we will continue with a board day for on head. Everybody start. We continue for front, home front and everything. We can be clean and clear, but we will not minimize anything. We will use this thing. We tell our story. We copy all the embassies in the world, including United States, including the Russian embassy. Everybody. We no one know play with. There are many ways to cash around. One we independent. What I can, which kind we can, which way. But we don't want France. We don't want La Republic. We don't want the Chinese people. Thank you plenty.
Thank you very much. SOS, there are two things we've gotten from this. I want to bring it so that you handle it, and maybe we'll take one call before you leave. Uchiba has brought on a new point to add up with the first call. Uchiba said something. While we are considering that those who will be benefiting from the TPS will have to step up their game when it comes to resource mobilization, it's also an opportunity for the internationalization, extensive campaign.
Right.
They have to have their voices, their videos, their talents, and keep pressing. So while the interim government is pressing on the ground, the diaspora has got to escalate. That is the summary.
Right, absolutely. And I wish to inform you that I have been in contact with a very influential personality, and I'm sure that when the time comes, we'll tell you some of the programs that we intend to work to put into place using this this very important person. And I think it goes in line with what you and just talked about. Just a little thing, a side comment here. I mean, we talk about Frundi and so on and so forth. This is a gentleman who, since 1992, he's not been able to solve just the basic problem of an electoral code that is fair. And we are talking about 30 years just to solve that basic issue. And he has the audacity to come on television, talk about this problem, and say, oh, we are still fighting and we have no right for self-determination. Frundi will die and there will never be a fair electoral process in La Republic. I can tell him that freely, in case he still has hopes. That was 1992. Where are we now? 30 years later, people who were born in 1992 are fighting this war for him. This is somebody who, because of the SDF being launched in Tarunkompak, we had 6 Ambazonians slaughtered. He still doesn't think about these people who were killed. He doesn't know the pain in Ambazonians because he sits in a wealthy neighborhood and thinks that he can come and dictate to us. So I hope this man he's not growing senile.
Someone said he's
lost their lives to defend this person.
Someone said he's suffering from dementia.
Possibly,
yes. You wanted to make a comment before we take this caller?
No, I said don't prove this selfish, wicked he-goat. I really regret why the restoration fighters, the twice they caught him, did not do away with him. We'll not be hearing such
So,
rubbish at
well,
this
they
point
let
in
him to
time.
tell the story. I think that is also good. Let others know what happened. TPS, I think one of the collateral damage of the TPS is that people like Elvis Cometa cannot go around selling affidavits. We know the story is, walking around with papers in his backpack and selling to whoever wants to pay him for that in terms of affidavits. So that is gone. So I hope he looks for a better job than selling affidavits to Ambazonians and others. So I
Okay,
just wanted to make
caller,
that passing comment.
caller Secretary Mungwa is listening, and Ambazonia people are listening. You're live on ABC Amba TV.
Yes, good evening, and all protocols respected. Greetings to Secretary of State Dr. Mungwa. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Patty, for all that you do.
Thank you.
This is Mayor Kari, the Deputy Secretary of State for Self-Defense and Security.
Okay.
I come in to speak on behalf of the fighters to say thank you to the United States for recognizing our suffering for all this while and deeming it worthwhile to provide temporary protective service to or status to our people who are fleeing this unfortunate war that was imposed on us. On behalf of the self-defense and freedom defenders, I just wish to ask the Secretary of State what strategy is there to convert this temporary protective status into money in the bank? Because we, the fighters on the ground, we are not enjoying from any temporary protective status from anyone. The bullets are still facing us. La Republic is still going to continue to target us. We are still going to continue to bleed. And our motivation and determination is as strong as it has always, as it has ever been. And it could get better if the Secretary of State tells us how he can make sure that this status that we have been granted is converted into money in the bank. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure listening to you. And you.
Good. Thank you, Mayor Kari. Secretary of State, carry your cross,
Mayor
please.
Kerry is somebody I personally admire for his strength and his leadership. And I think what he says is worth $1 million. I mean, let us put it this way. There are lots of Ambazonians who understand the sufferings of our people and the need to fund the restoration forces. But some of these people were living in hiding. Can you imagine how many will be able to come out of that hiding and actually get a job, and from that job they can sacrifice, even if it is $10 a month? Do you know what that impact is going to make? And when these Amazonians and others understand that it is thanks to the interim government under the leadership of President Sako, who has pushed for this temporary protective status to be granted us, I think it's just a matter of conscience for these fortunate Ambazonians, if I can put it that way, to show some gratitude by giving something to us. It might take a little bit of time because now they have to look for jobs. Now they have to look for better accommodation. But just cognizance of the fact that now no longer consider people who can be arrested and sent out of the country. I think that alone is enough for them to join their LGAs and contribute towards our revolution. But we will keep
Can I
on
just
beating the drum.
yeah, SOS, can I just ask a question on this regard? Because I think
Yeah.
UN echoed a similar comment in how to encourage or inspire those who will be benefiting from the TPS to participate, considering it's temporary, for them to participate to ensure that it is extended or it is made permanent until Ambazonia is free. So is this something, what I want to ask, is it possible for the interim government or the Ambazonia Foundation to request, say, a kind of a database from the American, maybe Homeland Security, of those who have applied or those who have been granted? So maybe we have some solid information from that um, department or from that office in America, so we know what we are working with, which what was the say this, the data or the targets we are working with, to know how to strategize to reach out. Is it a possibility in America?
I don't really think that is the best route to take, but I look at it from, I do some sort of re-engineering. Anybody who is concerned about the revolution back home always has access to a certain medium that talks about it. And for now, that
Okay.
medium is ABC TV. It is through programs like yours that we are going to get through these people and communicate to them exactly what they have to do. I don't think we can go to the database of the American government. I don't think we are authorized to do that. I don't think that can happen because if
Okay.
for some reason somebody is not just interested whatsoever, I don't think it's having access to that database that will change his or her mind. But I believe that through the excellent programs that you present and through the excellent programs that you show the world, the efforts that we are putting into place to get, establish a sovereign nation and a better country for us and our families and relatives, I think that's enough to bring people to help or to start giving us some funding to help in this
Okay.
struggle. That's the way I look at
Another
it.
thing I wanted to add, sorry, if I'm interrupting. I
Go
just want
ahead,
us
please.
to,
That's okay.
it's almost, midnight in Ambazonia, and where I am is 20 minutes to midnight.
Mm.
Quickly, on this TPS, and I'm still combining the comments and questions by the last, by all the callers who have spoken about TPS. In fact, three of them, including the on the search for DSS. Um, is it possible that we make out, or as a department of communication and IT, your department, carved out a message or a strategy of communication to put out there for people to either contact um, the ABC, for example, to tell their story. For example, those who have benefited from the TPS, to tell their story, um, their Ambazonian story, to be specific. Is that something you think might be useful in this case, to bring in that support and contribution or monetize this, say, diplomatic win for Ambazonia?
I
I
think
mean,
that could be a
I'm not.
framework.
Yeah, I'm not against such endeavor. If we can have people who will be honest to talk about this TPS and what it means to them, I think that's going to be a very good selling point, and also to encourage others to come out and share with us. We also have to recognize that you have the temporary status and you also have asylum, which they
Mhm.
may equally exploit depending on their circumstances. So, if they have
Yeah.
factual evidence, they may actually go for asylum, and that can even be a more permanent option. But I leave it to individuals to determine what their situation is. If they may want to maybe contact an attorney to help them in the process, if they're really seeking asylum, or if they think the temporary status is enough for them, they can go for it. So, what you are saying, I totally agree with it. It's something that we have the resources and have the manpower within uh, the communications department, so we can contact individuals to present their stories to the world and to actually boost our image and boost the interim government for having worked so hard in the past 4 years to gain this status. I think that would be wonderful, and I strongly support that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very
Yeah.
much, SOS, for awarding this elaborate time. Ambazonians are texting. We're not taking calls. The SOS indicated that by this time he would want to leave the studio so that he can make progress with other things. I want to apologize for the 1 hour late start. We've been on air already for close to 2 hours, and elaborately the program has been educative. Fortunately, you have an SOS who does extensive work. He's not just someone being excited with the media coming to speak. He would rather do some research. He has done elaborate research. SOS, please just give a last word for a few seconds so that we can round up the program.
Right. Thank you, Paddy. Thank you, Casey. This is another very interesting day. I'm talking about our revolution, and I'm very happy that we are actually changing minds since ASSC2 took place, where we're able to bring up some resolutions. Now we have an interim House of Representatives. We have re-established trust in the government. We've demonstrated that we are building strong institutions, and we have a leader who's also a strategist. And as I said, it is the mind of Dr. Sako that is helping us to move this revolution forward. And he understands the big picture. He understands the big picture. I know there are lots of, there are coup plotters who are trying to torpedo this process, torpedo this revolution, but they're not going to succeed for one simple reason, because we've been mandated by the people. We are here for independence. We're not here for federalism. We're not here for union. We're not here for some backdoor deal where they're going to exchange money for freedom. We are here for sovereignty. And we've talked about a number of issues today. We see how the state of La Republic economy, there's no way that we can be part of this very corrupt regime that has demonstrated over and over and over again that they never even learn from their past mistakes, and they keep on going down the drain. We cannot accept that. And I hope, as in the weeks and months to come, we'll get more education through this platform, and we're able to let Ambazonians understand or know that we hear them, we've listened to them, and we understand what is at stake, and we're never going to move away from this sovereignty fight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, SOS. Thank you very much, Lady Casey. Tomorrow, you and I will be live again for commentary and analysis. We hope to have Barrister Valentine Ghana. We hope to have Barrister Fru Johnson call in for Undaunted live tomorrow at 8 p.m. We intend to be live for some analysis and commentaries. We will process this document that is coming in from Russia, whatever accord that is between Cameroon and Russia. And you've just heard from the SOS, from Barrister Fru Johnson. You've heard the spokesman of the interim government telling you it is of no effect. It does not cause Ambazonians to waver. The interim government stays focused. The interim government was even awaiting such a move. And the interim government is not sleeping. The interim government is employing other measures outside the Swiss-led process and also the ground game. Fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen, it is common sense for you to realize that as you benefit from the TPS, you would have to also show some appreciation for the interim government doing a diligent work, making the ground hot. Because what are the basis for the TPS? Why has the Trump and the Biden administration successively decided to grant you a temporal status? Is because the interim government escalated the ground game. Because in 2020 and in 2021, Dr. Sako came up with a draft and the ground game changed. In 2018, when this man took over office, self-defense became an actual reality in the home front. It was no longer been briefed on Facebook. You saw within 3 months, it's good for me to always remind you, within only 3 months, more than 30,000 Amazonians were willing to volunteer, and resources were provided them. They were graduated from sticks and knives, from den guns into AK-47s. And the next year, it became something else. You've heard a human rights report as read by Dr. Mungwa, how that it is said the IEDs were effectively being used. And that is an appreciation of the effort. And how did that happen? You had Lava Storm 1, Lava Storm 2. The result is on the ground. Forget about wannabes, Facebook ping pong, activists who want you to believe that nothing is happening. Trump, the Biden administration has answered them, has told them that no, something is happening. And when we started this program, I hinted to you, I told you that we have intelligence, that Coopers, as they are licking their wings, confused, not knowing what to do, starting something, a structure, and have no strategy, they are trying to partner with Norway and with Kondengi. And what is their catchphrase? What are they? What is the front all about? They want to tell Amazonians that President Sako is the divider. No, unfortunately, we know that President Sako is the unifier. In 2018, he created a defense platform to unite everyone. The Akwangas, the Choayabas. But these individuals felt that they needed more. They destroyed it. I'm talking about the F.Asce. Again, he has not stopped. The F.Asce was his initiative, trying to bring everybody together. These individuals thought that they wanted more. They destroyed it. Again, he is the mastermind behind Team Amazonia, behind what you call today ACT. There is no other platform that has ever been like ACT. The president said over the weekend, there is no process but the Swiss process. It is all his idea. It has all been his idea. The Bible says a prophet is never known in his home country. We are not going to allow that prophecy become a reality in our day. We have seen a strategist that is not just talking. You can actually match his words and his actions. Is it diplomacy? He is present. Is it on the ground? He is present. He is unwaveringly strategizing sleeplessly to ensure that our nation becomes a reality. So whatever unity front that the Coopers in alliance with Norway and the Kik are trying to bring to us, we already know. And let me examine that before we conclude. You have to know that the word unity does not really have anything. What is involved in that unity is dependent on what is brought in by those who are choosing to unite. I told you a few days ago that the Unity Warriors was a fraud. Why? Because it was born out of fraud. It was born out of those who have failed. Those who have brought in defense strategies that have failed, rooftop, whatever, block by block. It was a fraud. It was a scam concocted from Norway. It failed. It was a project to create a hegemony within. It was some warlord who thought that he can impose himself on the peoples of Amazonia who have decided not to buy his vision. And now he can cheaply sell to Cameroon. We have seen him kill in Guzang. We have seen him kill in Lebialem. You have dozens, as Kemi Achu reported the other day, dozens of our own people, restoration forces, killed by these same individuals. Just the other day, his armed group on the ground beheaded on camera an ISIS-like form of execution. That is unacceptable. That was a setup of war crime criminals, and therefore it could not succeed. It was a failure. So this unity front they are trying to cook up at the background. Let me examine those involved. The Coopers are fraudsters. The Coopers are thieves. They are those who have taken thousands upon hundreds of thousands from the interim government And they thought that their escape plan was to create a coup. Unfortunately for them, they failed. And they didn't stop. They did not stop. They went into the treasury and they are going to face the law. They have been served. They will face the law. So this is one arm of the purported union that they are cooking with Norway and Kondengi. And what is Norway? I've already told you what Norway is. For 30 years, they are a mistake. After failing for 30 years, abandoning Amazonian, Southern Cameroonian refugees in Nigeria and taking the Burmese that had money, these guys, for some reason, escaped Cameroon because of whatever activism they were having in the university at the time. And international organizations, they had opportunities to help Amazonians. What they did is they were taking money from Amazonians. We have this in record. They abandoned Amazonians years ago in Nigeria and took the Burmese that had money. Opportunity was given to them. And so it has been a constant. They have been fraudsters. There have been people that are always thinking about themselves, not a common good. They have always thought about themselves. So that is the unity. I've just told you now, the Coopers and the Norwegian or whatever you want to call them, in a unity. They're planning a unity right now. We have intelligence about it. And they want to tell Amazonians that, hey, Dr. Sako is the one that is dividing. Then let's go to Kick. What is happening with the Kick? Until today, how they found themselves in Nera Hotel is not clear yet. Milan Atam and Kasna Nyangwe forgot to tell us why they were not a part of the Nera 10. Why? What were the arrangements between Rene Sadi and former President Sisiko? Okay, we also have it. Reports have it that Kick wrote an apology letter to Etudi. So you see, it's going to be a conjunction, an influx of those you know. So what can they together bring for Amazonians? You know it. Most probably, they will be taking you to Yaoundé. And that is not what you want to subscribe. This has been a team, a winning team that is focused, a team that is not just talking what they can do, but doing what they know how to do best. Tomorrow with Undaunted, we're going to bring Russia and Amazonia. We're going to put Cameroon and France. It's going to be a special focus of this accord that has just come to us. You do not want to miss tomorrow's Undaunted, and we will have some very important guests for our interview. On that note, it's been Taha Paddy King. I want to tell you good night and bye-bye.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amber TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
Yes, entertainment.
Money, make you help your brother, If you know that God, you go and I forgot that. Brother, make you